So today we are joined with the Teacher of the Year, Dr. Kara Teehan. So how long have you been teaching at North?
This is my 6th year teaching at North.
How has your role as a teacher evolved over those 6 years?
It's definitely evolved a lot. I started out kind of like an amateur, just really open to learning from different teachers around me and different people. And now I feel like I've been able to take on a little bit more of a leadership role and join some committees. Dr. Cartier has a lot of different like principal advisory committees, and then there's like the learning design team, which I'm a part of, which is help represent the school, but we meet district wide. And also, after I was teaching in high school for like 2 years, I started teaching in college as well. So I started teaching at Stockton. And then the next year, I started teaching at St. Peter's as well. And then I think that same year, or maybe the year after, I don't remember, I started teaching at Monmouth University. So that kind of added an element to my teaching because I was able to see the different levels and not just see high school, but see college also. Yeah, and during that too, I was working on my PhD at Rutgers. So when I finished that, then I had kind of more time to, I don't know, do different things and just like I've been presenting at conferences and I attend conferences and like that's a fun aspect also of teaching, kind of outside of teaching.
What was that like, getting your PhD?
Oh, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. It was like I guess at some points it was stressful, but I would say it was just like a lot of work and a lot of late nights. But luckily, I started it right after I graduated from college. I started grad school, so I was kind of already in the student mindset, and I'm used to working multiple jobs and things like that. So I'd go teach at North, and then 2 or 3 days a week I would drive up to Rutgers and go to class. And then like the amount of work they signed was intense. So usually I'd be up till 2 in the morning, but it was fine because I was not that I'm not like that young now, but I was younger and I was like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll stay up till 2 in the morning. I'll do these papers and this work. And I feel like I learned a lot and it was a great experience. And I had a lot of great professors who taught me a lot. And for me, it was fun to connect what I was doing, which is teaching, which is kind of the practical, applicable side of education, and learn about the research-based side of education and kind of connect them and see where my practices are informed. So I thought it was a great experience, especially early on in my teaching career.
What are the similarities between teaching at a high school level and a college level?
There are kind of the normal similarities, like you plan, you create assignments, you engage with students, you have extra help. But I think the expectation is a little bit different. In college, you're paying for classes, and if you don't do the work, you'll fail, and that's that. I think in high school, up until age 16, it's a legal requirement to be there. So the expectation is a little bit different. So I think that plays a part, and also like the age of the students. When you're in college, you pick a major of something that you want to study. So every class that you take, whether it directly has to do with your major or it's just a requirement, it's propelling you towards that degree and your future career. So I feel like students really feel the investment. Not that they don't in high school, but in high school you have this like 8 different classes and it can be overwhelming. So I think like students see it as, okay, like here's all my classes and here's what I'm approaching. And then students in college are a little bit more focused towards like their career. High school I like a little bit better though, because it's a little more fun. Like I get to know the students much more. I learn about them as a person. What sports do they play? Are they into music? What's their family like? And I see them all year. College, it's a little sad because I see them for a semester and then that's it. Like, December 15th, I usually never see them again. But, high school, I feel like if I had to choose between the two, I'd definitely pick high school just because, it's younger students who are just more impressionable. And I feel like I can kind of have a more positive influence on them long term because I see them the whole year and I learn about like who they are and I get to like teach them and give them kind of guidance on where they want to, I don't know what career they want to do or like what they want to major in. Whereas in college, it's like, all right, I see them twice a week and like it's fun and it's good, but then I just usually never see them again. So yeah.
So what classes do you teach what classes do you teach in high school and in college?
For at North, I teach two different AP calculus classes. One is AB, one is BC. One's the equivalent of like Calc 1 in college, and then the other one's pretty much the equivalent of Calculus 2 in college. And I also teach Algebra 2. That's the majority of my schedule. And I co-teach with Ms. DeGroosh, which is awesome. We have a great time. We teach Algebra 2 together. In college at Monmouth, right now I teach pre-calculus for biology, which is cool. It's like applicable to biology. I know it's like math, but you see it in the sciences. And then previously I taught mathematical modeling at Monmouth. And at Stockton, I teach like an intro level math class called quantitative reasoning. And I've previously taught algebraic problem solving. So all, algebra based. I taught statistics at St. Peter's, which was fun. It's a very different type of math, and it's really cool. It's all about research and applying data, data analysis techniques. And, I feel like students taking statistics really learn how to appreciate the data that they read. So like in articles and things like that. So that was a fun class to teach.
Would you say that's your favorite class to teach, or?
Statistics?
Yeah.
I think it used to be the opposite. Like I found before I went to grad school, I found statistics intimidating because I guess just the way that I think, to me, a lot of the things were counterintuitive initially. And I'd learned, like when I took the statistical research methods classes at Rutgers, I was kind of like floored by there's so many different statistical tests and things like that. But then, so, I like went through the class and I learned, I was like, okay, this is fine. And I had to learn how to apply it in my own research, because that's what you do when you get a PhD. You have to do what's called a dissertation, and you have to use quantitative, which is statistical, and qualitative, which is more interpretive data analysis methods. But when I taught that class at St. Peter's, I developed a new appreciation for it. So I think it was the opposite. I was more like intimidated by it. And then as I taught it, I was like, oh, wow, this is actually amazing. Now I could see it from the perspective. But if I had to pick a favorite like math content, I would pick trigonometry. You might have done it. It's like study of triangles. You do it in geometry, and then you do it in like algebra 2, you do it in pre-calc. But I just love trigonometry. I feel like it's just, I don't know, it's in depth. It all works out, and you can take so many different pathways to get to the answer. And I don't know, I like trig. I also like calculus, but I like all math. But if I had to pick two, it'd be trigonometry and calculus.
Where did your love for math root from? When did you decide that you wanted to take this path?
I don't know. Like I went to Middletown schools for like K-8, and I had amazing teachers. I had this teacher in first grade, Miss Clifton, Mr. Gent in second grade at Fairview. I think I know he's still there. And then I had Miss Tice in 8th grade, who is now Miss Friend, and I know she still works in Middletown. And they were awesome. Like they were enthusiastic. They made learning math fun, and to me, it just made sense. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the applicability, and I can see it. Like in my everyday life, I will be at the grocery store and I see two different, packages of food, and one's on sale and it's like a bigger package, and I'll just do the unit rate really quickly in my calculator. And like, I feel like it's just useful. And I'm really into stocks and like financial math. And I feel like if you have a really strong background, you can be confident and do really well. But that starts with a good foundation. So I just like it. I don't know. I guess it was like early on. I just like learning in general. In high school, I did not go to Middletown high schools, but I had a class that it was actually calculus. Like it threw me for a loop, and I would ask for help, and the teacher was maybe not so responsive. So it was a struggle for me. And I decided actually at that point, I was like, oh, I'm never going to take another math class if I can help it. So I was trying to major in things that didn't involve taking math. But I also at the same time was applying to a bunch of different like scholarships and things. And I found out like that summer, I remember I was working at Keansburg Amusement Park, and apparently I got a letter in the mail. My dad called me and said, oh, you got a letter from Buick. It was like a scholarship. And he decided to open it. And he was like, basically they were pretty much paying for my entire college, like all 4 years. But I just had to major in something either math or engineering based. I was like, oh, here we go, And for me, that was like a big challenge, because like the senior year, I just struggled. It stopped making sense for me, which was tough. And but because of the scholarship, like I realized, it's smarter to go to college and have it paid for than to just try to avoid something that you're intimidated by. But then I ended up retaking calculus in college, and I was like, oh, this does make sense. And I had a really, really great professor, and I still keep in contact with her. And so I think like the moral of that story is like, positive influences really have an effect on you. So I try to be that way as a teacher. It's I try to be that like encouraging positive influence, because for me that changed my life. That one professor in college, I don't know, she was just great. I was like, oh, it makes sense again. And then I just did really well with it, and I learned how I learn, and how I need to study, and things like that. And then love for math returned just like that.
Cool. What's the most important thing to you as a teacher?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think like if I just had to pick one thing and didn't like, have to ask for specifics about,
Mhm.
well, I would just say that it's for me, it's important to be a positive role model and to have a positive influence. And like every day just to be the person that students feel they can like talk to, and it's okay. And everyone's allowed to make mistakes as long as you learn how to correct them. And um, I want to be I try to be a teacher who teaches like lifelong lessons, like organization and time management and responsibility, and like the correct way to communicate, in addition to the math content, because I think that's all really, really important. And I also want students to leave feeling like confident and feeling like, that people care about them, because I care about all my students, and I don't want them to ever like leave class being upset about something. And it's like, oh, I would never let, my mood affect them, or try not to. So I don't know, I guess the most important thing is to make students aware that, they're cared about, and their education is important to me, and their mental health, and all of that. So I think, yeah, I guess in general, that's probably the most important thing. They come in and they learn life lessons, and some math.
What's the most difficult part of teaching?
Um, I think that changes for me every year. I know, like initially, it was just for me time management. I think my first year, it added to it that I was like taking grad school classes. So like my time management is good, but I just had a lot on my plate. I don't wouldn't say like I took anything off my plate, but I've like switched around, and I've also kind of prioritized different things. So I think every year there's like a new challenge, but I love it. Like I love challenges, because that's how you grow. You overcome a challenge, and then you're better for it in the long term. So yeah, like maybe initially it was time management. I wouldn't say I ever had like classroom management problems, but like sometimes like I don't know, like yeah, maybe if I like take on a new class, like planning for it. I don't know. I feel like there's a new challenge every year. Like I guess virtual teaching has its own struggles, and I don't really struggle with the virtual teaching or finding resources and things, because like I think it's kind of fun to learn to teach in a different way. But I do miss the in-person interaction every day with like the whole class, so that's challenging. I miss the like joking around in class, because I don't get the laughs virtually. Everyone's muted, so I know they're cracking up at home when I'm making a joke, but I don't hear it. So um, I don't know. Yeah, I guess every year there's never like a huge thing, or like, oh, this makes teaching really hard, but there's always a bunch of things every year that come up as like new challenges, and it's fun to like learn how to overcome them.
Yeah, that's definitely a part that I miss, like getting to laugh in class. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I
Because
haven't had
sometimes you
connection.
have funny teachers like me, and then I don't know, it's rough. You just you miss out on that. It's all seriousness.
Mhm. What's something that you learned about yourself as a teacher?
um, I think I've learned. Well, I've definitely learned that I like having a job where I don't have to sit in an office. That's one
Mhm.
thing. I love the interaction with a bunch of people every day and standing up and everything. Like with virtual teaching, I have to sit a lot now, so I'm like, oh my god, my back hurts. Like I'm used to like standing up and like writing the board and walking around and helping everyone. So I've learned like, oh, this is a great job for someone who wants to just be constantly active and have like new challenges every day. Being a teacher, I've learned how to interact with people. I think that's been like at a lot of jobs that I've had over the years. Like when I was younger, I think I've learned how to interact with people. Like I mentioned, I worked at Kingsbury Amusement Park. That helped me learn like in customer service, just how to interact with coworkers and customers and your boss and things like that. And I think I've learned a lot about like teaching in general that I like thought I knew, and I've just learned from experience on like how to engage students the best and how to use different activities and explain things different ways and like how to actually be a positive influence and things like that. So I think I've learned a lot about like actually how to teach well.
Hmm. What's something that your students taught you?
I've learned a lot from students. I try to give people grace when they're struggling, and I feel like especially at the beginning of when I was teaching, I was so appreciative because they would give me grace for different things. Like I would just like mess up, and not like content wise, but I'd mess up like I'd give like a homework assignment on a topic by accident. It's like, wait, that's not what we did. I gave the wrong book page numbers or whatever it was. And then, I wouldn't see them for 2 days because of block scheduling. Then I'd have to apologize. And, they're very forgiving. I was like, wow, that's what a great, trait. I don't know. And so it's from that, it's like, oh, well, I want to give the same back. They're giving me grace. I want to be understanding as well, which is crazy because you think like, oh, adults know it all. And like, yeah, like I'd be understanding, but it's different when you are on the receiving end of that understanding. I remember like the first time the class, Calculus BC, I think I taught, what did I do? I taught like, there's different like topics that are taught in college that are not taught in the BC class and like vice versa. I think I went really in depth with something and it wasn't even on the AP exam. So I wasted a lot of time. So I had to kind of apologize, say, oh, now we have to rush. But everyone was just kind of like going with it, which was nice. It's cool learning how students interact too. Like I've learned funny things. I've learned a lot of slang terms or like cool terms. Like no cap was a cool one 2 years ago, and so I love to like bring that into my my teaching, and throw them off. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm cool too. I've learned about the game Among Us. I've learned about some great songs from students. Yeah, and I guess I just like see learn like, oh, it's a cool stuff. What's cool with people? So it's cool because that gives me a way to like connect with them. Not that I do any of the cool things, but I also have siblings who are around. Like my brother just graduated last year from high school, my youngest brother, but still like I've had siblings around the age. So that gave me a cool way to connect with my siblings because I would learn from my students what's relevant and then, have that connection.
Can you just share some memorable times or experiences that stood out to you as a teacher, like specifics?
Specific? Sure. Let me think. I feel like there's a lot. So, well, one year, I think this was the first year I was teaching, and for the AP exam, we all study for it, but there's a couple students who choose not to take it, and for various reasons. Like sometimes they're just not majoring in something in math, but regardless, like they asked, oh, can we do something besides the AP review because it's not relevant to us? And I was like, okay. So I gave them some like projects and some options. And this one group decided to do like a game board, and it was called Teehan something, and I forget now. Still have it in my classroom, so if I was there, I would pull it out. So maybe it was like Teehan Monopoly or something. But it was like they took like a picture of me. I don't even know where they got it. They probably just Googled it, and they like blew it up and then put like a teacher outfit, and I was in the middle. And then my boss, who's the director of math, he and I student taught together. So a lot of the students we had when we student taught were in calculus. So they knew him too. So they put like him on the board, a couple other people. It was like very, very funny. It was like everyone's faces with different outfits like around the board. And I think it was called Teehan Monopoly. It was called Teehan something. And it was really amusing. And I appreciated it. It was nice. And like I feel like maybe second year I was teaching or something, I'd have this group of students who would always like yell my name as they were leaving like for the day. And it was like weird at first. Then it was nice. And I missed it after they left.
Mm.
which is not really, like in the classroom, but I feel like I had a lot of good moments teaching different content, like joking around with students. Like I had this one girl who would come to class every day, and she would like put her foot up on the desk and not bring a notebook. So I'd always call her out and be like, oh, tell me the answer to this, and she would always have it. So it was funny because I feel like I learned like, oh, people process in different ways, and people learn in different ways, and like some people just like to sit and like take things in, and they're still learning. And she was on it, like she would always give the right answer. So it was like, I feel like that was like a learning experience for me and fun. Let me think. I feel like I've had a lot of good like small moments that seem like irrelevant at the time, but like overall you look back and like, oh, what a great year, like a lot of small collections of moments with students. I know my first 2 years of teaching, I feel like were the most memorable just because it was so new and so like exciting, and just I definitely had a lot of good students, but I always have, a lot of good students. Like everyone at North is great. I don't know, like it was just, yeah, fun. It's been a fun 6 years. Let me think there's anything else that stands out. I don't know. I guess I would have to think about it more. I think that's like, yeah, pretty much it. There's like a ton of moments, but I can't think of any more specific.
Yeah, too many to think of, right? That's all the questions specifically that I have, but is there anything else you would like to share?
Let me think. I don't know. I really enjoy teaching. I love North. I think the people here are great. The students are great. 4 of my 5 siblings went to North, so I know how good of a school it is from like both perspectives. And I went to Middletown schools, and I really see the difference between like Middletown schools and other schools, and Middletown has a lot going for it. Like it's great. I know I learned like, not math related, but when I was a student, I learned how to write, and I like to think like I'm a pretty good writer now. And I had to write a 300-page dissertation, and like that was, I won't say it was easy. It wasn't like easy, but I felt like it was, to me, like it wasn't an intimidating challenge. And I feel like it goes back to my training from early on, like even like 3rd grade. Like I got a lot of like grammar, punctuation, phonics, just how to write paragraphs, how to write essays, how to write papers, APA, MLA. Like I learned a lot, and it was all from Middletown. I know that continues now. Like everyone I see doing things at Middletown, like they take those skills long term, and it's hard to see in like a small scale. Like, oh, when will I use this? Like later on, like you definitely do. I always tell students, like I use like everything I learned in school. So yeah, I feel like Middletown's great. I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to have, taught here for 6 years, and I'm extremely honored to be Teacher of the Year. I had no idea. I was very surprised. I thought I was having a meeting for something else, and they told me, and I'm very honored, and just happy to be here. Happy to continue to teach at North and try to be a positive influence.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, thanks for doing the interview.